Every morning, I wake up at 3 a.m. I'll start off with about 30 minutes of yoga stretches. I'll then run about a half marathon, read 2 books, journal about 25 pages, and then have my green smoothie that has bone broth protein, chia seeds, and of course, soy milk.
How? That's a good start.
Is your BS meter going off yet? Because it should. Okay, do I wake up at 3 a.m.? Not even close. But I do wake up early, I do journal, I do read, and occasionally I'll go out for a run.
That's what I'm talking about!
And I firmly believe that there are core habits that have led to my success. So anytime I see YouTube videos, podcasts, or articles that talk about millionaire habits, key money habits that millionaires have, I just love to read these, watch them, or listen to them just to see how I compare and if it really holds true. So when I came across this article on Business Insider that's titled 5 Daily Money Habits That Keep Self-Made Millionaires Wealthy, according to financial advisors who know, I mean, not only did I have to read it, but I also had to record this video and podcast reacting to it. So first of all, I'm a self-made millionaire, so I want to see what these habits are. So maybe these are habits, if I don't have them in my daily routine, I need to add them. Also, this is according to financial advisors. So I used to be a financial advisor. I still have my CFP designation. So this article is right up my alley.
Okay, I'm listening.
So let's go ahead and find out what these 5 daily money habits that keep self-made millionaires wealthy right now. What is going on, GFC fam and Wealth Hacker Nation? It's your boy Jeff back with another show, another podcast. And this is a little different than I usually do. I used to react to certain videos. I don't know if I've reacted to an article in a while, but I thought this would be fun. I just love the title, Self-Made Millionaires. I love habits. Once again, former financial advisor. I just had to. Let's just go ahead and just dive into this. So you can check out this article on Business Insider. I'll have a link in the description, in the show notes that you can check out. So let's just read number 1. So number 1 is many millionaires avoid lifestyle creep. Anytime I hear the word creep, I mean, I'm a 90s grunge guy, so I'm thinking Radiohead. I'm a creep, but I'm a creep. Yep, so that is why I'm not a musician. That's why I do YouTube. That's why I do podcasts. Cannot sing. All right, let's go back to this millionaire's lifestyle creep. So let's just go read it. So it says that many wealthy people avoid lifestyle creep, the slow but steady creep of spending more money on luxury items that then become essential to your lifestyle. Gosh, it goes on to say, millionaires typically buy used cars with cash and hold on to them as long as possible. Now, I believe that buying new cars is one of the worst purchases that you can make. I actually have a video and a blog post and a podcast that talks about the number 1 wealth killer. I have a link to that in the description as well. You can check out. But in that, I share that the car payment is the number 1 wealth killer. Average car payment somewhere in that $400 to $500 range on top of insurance. So if you're using, think about how many people are spending that much money on a car payment every single month, as opposed to putting that into a 401k or a Roth IRA and compounding interest. I mean, we're talking millions upon millions of dollars that people are wasting on a stupid car payment. So I'm all about that, right? But I will say one thing, there are luxury items that, we've gotten used to as a family. We use Instacart, we go out to eat, we pay for somebody to do our laundry, we pay for people to clean our house. My kids also do a lot of chores around the house. I want to make sure that they appreciate, what we have here, in the Rose household. There definitely are things here, I do agree with some of that, but there are certain things that we pay for. And a lot of the things that we do pay for, it's about not just convenience, but it's basically we're buying back our time. My wife hates to do laundry. I don't like to do laundry. So we're like, okay, we could spend hours a week doing our laundry, or we could pay somebody to come into our home and do our laundry for us. And that is a huge. Now I say one thing with our kids, like we're really big in making sure that our kids recognize that it takes a lot of money and also effort to make our household run. So somebody does come and do our laundry, but we do make them put the laundry away. And at some point when they're a little bit older, we'll probably have them do their own laundry. But these are just things, right? So we're all about buying back our time. It's very, very, very important. There was a time that we used to have a nanny in our house that would help out with our kids when our daughter was younger. And that was a huge thing, especially when we moved here to Nashville. But now, all our kids are in school, so we recognize that the nanny wasn't needed. So we recognize, okay, we don't have to pay, for a nanny. It was nice while we had it. And I ain't gonna lie, there's some days I wish that we still had a nanny. Sometimes, love my kids, but sometimes I really would love getting a break every once in a while.
Nanny, I'm his nanny!
Yeah, I will say there are definitely things that we still pay for and that we're totally fine with, but there's other items that we recognize that, could we afford that? Sure, but it's just not worth paying for anymore. All right, so number one was avoid a lifestyle creep. Number two, they prioritize paying down their debts. Okay, I'm full agreement with this. One of the things with my wife and I, we're huge on debt, or I guess not having debt. And that was one of the things I brought into our marriage. Both my parents struggled with debt. Both my parents, so they divorced when they were young. I think I've mentioned this before in the podcast, definitely on the YouTube channel. They divorced when I was young. I was 3. So divorced, for most of my life. Independent of each other, this is quite an accomplishment, by the way. Independent of each other, they both filed for bankruptcy, not once, but twice. Not once, but twice. So both of my parents filed bankruptcy twice. How? That's pretty impressive, right? That's pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Now, I joke about that, but that's not fun, right? If you've been through bankruptcy, that's not a good place to be. And both my parents didn't want to be there, but I wanted to share that because that is the type of money lessons, financial skills that were passed down to me. Both parents getting themselves in situations where bankruptcy, at least in their view, was the only option. And that's what I grew up with. So knowing that, I knew that, but yet I still started down that death trap. I had DDS, debt denial syndrome, where it's it's only this amount of debt. Oh, I can afford that payment. I'm going to get this TV. I'm going to get these clothes. I'm going to go on that trip. And I definitely fell into that. My wife, fiance, girlfriend was like, no, you can't afford that. Praise God that she was able to speak truth into my life and also that I listened. So we began this process of paying down all the debt that I had. And that's always really been our MO. And so we've had no debt ever since me being deployed to Iraq. And then the only debt we have at this time is our home. And I've recently have not shared this on the YouTube channel yet, but I've shared it on the blog and also on the podcast, where right now our priority is paying down our house. So we want to pay off our house completely. We have an aggressive payoff plan, trying to get this done in about 5 to 6 years. And we had the finances to pay off our house, but one of the things that we did do was, if you are watching this on the YouTube channel, I'm currently in my new studio, which is the second story, is it almost like a second house? The second story of our pool house. And this is crazy to me, how much, not just the pool house is, but how much pools cost in the Nashville area. We moved here from Southern Illinois, cost of living was much cheaper, but let me just say this, right? Our pool, not including the structure, but the pool cost almost twice as much as the very first home that we ever bought.
Holy cow.
And that was like a 1,900 square foot home, had a half-acre lot. Southern Illinois, so cost of living was a lot less. But so our pool, not including the pool house, cost twice as much as our first home. So this was quite a pricey addition, to our home and our living. But one of the cool things that we can say was that we paid this completely with cash. So there is no debt on the structure, no debt on the pool. we paid all of that out of pocket.
Congratulations.
Looking back, we could have used all that and paid off the house with it. Could have. I don't know if we should have. I love the new studio. I love the pool house. I love the pool. I mean, it definitely has added more fun things to do with our family. And also this, as of right now, we call this our forever home. So this is the home that we feel like we're going to be in for a number of years. And the whole goal was to create a home that our kids wanted to come back to visit. Now, the one catch is that is we want to make sure that this is the home that they want to leave, and start their own life. Oh, why would I move out? Mom and Dad got this awesome pool. They got the pool house. I'll just sleep over here next to Dad's office. No, you won't, kids. That is not an option whatsoever.
That's not an option.
Making it a priority to pay off debt has been huge. We have, I think, 3 or 4 different credit cards that we use for personal, our family credit card, for our businesses, but we pay those off every month. Actually, I think my wife makes a payment to our credit cards once a week. And I know this because I logged into one of our Chase cards the other day, and I was looking at the balances. I was trying to find, I think, a charge or something. And on two of the credit cards, when I logged in, I saw that not only we didn't have a balance, no, we actually had a negative balance, meaning that the credit cards owed us one was $24, the other one was $45, which I'm guessing my wife had overpaid or just sent some money knowing that there'd be other charges. But basically it said that we had a negative balance on our credit cards. That's how crazy OCD we are about credit card debt, and all debt for that matter.
It's crazy.
So yeah, I totally can agree with this. Self-made millionaire, and we definitely prioritize paying down our debts. All right, let's move on to number 3 on the list. Number 3, they check their money regular. I have the hardest time trying to say that word. Am I the only one that struggles? Regularly. All right, I said it, regularly. I'm glad I am not on stage somewhere. All right, let me just read a little quick. So Zygmunt, which I'm assuming is some sort of advisor, probably quoted earlier in this article, says that millionaires live within their budget with a clear understanding of what they can and can't spend money on. They check their money regularly. I'm reading this because there are parts that, yes, I agree. And this is, I think it's very important where you have a team, that you and your spouse have, I don't say dedicated roles, but if you think of any major company corporation, you've got your CEO, you got your CFO, you got different departments, right? So with my wife and I, it's really kind of funny because yes, I'm the CFP in the family, right? I'm the certified financial planner, but yet my wife is the one that handles paying all of the bills. She handles most of that financial stuff. I handle more of the investments. I also handle making money, bringing the money in. So my wife is more like the CFO of our family. She's the chief financial officer. And then I'm I won't say CEO because I think my wife would also say she's the CEO as well.
I'm watching you.
So I'm the CIO, Chief Investment Officer, also the Chief Idea Officer. I'm the one that comes up with the ideas to bring in the revenue, and that's my role. And we will get together and have money talks, have money goals. That was one of the reasons why we came up with the plan about paying off our home. That was something that she had talked about. She's mentioned it. I initially wasn't on board as much as she was. For anybody that's ran the numbers, you can run numbers all day long. And typically paying off your mortgage early doesn't make a lot of sense based on the numbers. But when the reasoning, the rationale that she had, and I could fully support it, it was just clarity, it was comfort, security, peace of mind. And those are feelings and emotions that you can't put a price tag on. You can't run forecasts, you can't run calculations. But because we check our money regularly, that is how and why we came up with that plan. So I firmly agree. As far as checking my investments, mostly what I check most of the time is definitely crypto, Bitcoin. I'll log into M1 Finance, Robinhood every once in a while. I don't check a lot of like my 401k, some of like my Roth IRA. I don't check those as much. Just check the stuff. Usually it's just crypto. Crypto is what I'm checking most often. So I don't know if self-made millionaires have a lot of crypto, but I am the guy that is checking that every single day, usually twice a day. That is number 3, checking their money regularly. Said it. All right. Awesome. Let's look at number 4. They're more interested in preserving wealth than growing wealth. Ooh, this one is interesting. More interested in preserving wealth than growing wealth. So this one actually quotes a PhD. Says Dr. Guy Baker, founder of Wealth Teams Alliance, says that millionaires are more interested in preserving capital than they are in growing it. They invest in equities and debt that are low risk. Does crypto fall into that category of low risk, preserving capital? They invest in equities and debt that are low risk with a high probability of reasonable income. They become much more focused on whether they are going to get their capital back than doubling or tripling in the next 10 years. But also says, okay, I can rally behind this. Many self-made millionaires are more likely to invest in a business ventures or growth opportunities that they already know, instead of taking big risks on something they haven't studied yet. Okay, I definitely agree with that, investing in things that I know. And there's definitely parts of this I can't agree with. Now, it's been a while. I'll have a link for the podcast. There's also a video and a blog post that talks about the barbell investing strategy. And this is a strategy that I wasn't familiar with until somebody else told me about it. And when they told me about it, I realized, oh, I'm actually doing that. So yeah, I do invest into crypto. Yes, I do invest into individual stocks. I do have one small investment into an angel investment. It's into a startup. I do have some private REITs that are technically more higher risk. So I definitely am comfortable putting my money there, but also we keep a good amount in cash as well. So the barbell investment strategy is, if you think like a barbell, if you're weightlifting, one side of the barbell, you have your higher risk stuff. On the other side of the barbell, you have pretty much all your secured, which is cash. Anything that you just know is going to be there, not going away, all your FDIC insured. And that's pretty much how we invest, basically taking out the middle. So I don't do a lot of like short-term bonds. I used to have some dividend paying stocks in our portfolio. We end up, since I'm the chief investment officer, I'm the one end up getting rid of those when I started investing more into crypto. But we've taken out a lot of the middle road investments. So for me, it's like, all right, high risk on one side, but we want to make sure that we have 100% safe, secure on the other. So, but I will say at the end of the day, am I trying to grow my wealth? Meaning that, if we're worth, say, $1 million today, am I trying to turn that into 5 million over the next couple years? And I'm definitely not opposed to growing it, but I will say, and I'll give you one example where this totally makes sense to me, was a couple years ago, I ended up selling a minority stake in one of my businesses and got a nice payday, the largest payday I've ever got in my life. And I put all of that, or I should say my wife and I put all of that, after we tied to our church and did some philanthropic, regularly fill some gift giving stuff. Oh yeah, philanthropy is what I'm trying to say, or some tense of that word. Gosh, bear with me, y'all. I'm so grateful for you. As you can tell, I don't know how to talk sometimes, and I'm glad that you get to appreciate. Hopefully, you're laughing with me as I stutter through this. But after we gave to our church and gave to some other causes that we're passionate about, the rest of it went into the bank, and literally the bank. And at the time, the bank, and actually at the time and still is, was paying us 0.01%. And this was right before the market really, really took off. I mean, this is before COVID and everything, where had I put that even like in the S&P 500, it would have at least doubled, if not tripled, maybe even quadrupled in the last couple of years. And I got to the point where it's like, I started kicking myself a little bit. And I did start investing some of that. Now, there were some other reasons why I wasn't comfortable investing it at the time. But the other part was I could totally relate to, I've got this big chunk of money. This is more than, not that it's going to last us the rest of our lifetime, but it was the most amount of money we'd ever received, and definitely had the potential to last us for at least the next, let's say, 10 years. And I did not want to rush into putting that into something I would maybe regret. Did not want to put into something that may lose 20, 30%, 50%, and really just kind of wanted to sit and wait and see for the right opportunity. And that is typically not always relying on my gut. My gut does sometimes gets me into things I may later regret. That usually is me relying on a lot of prayer and just like where God's leading me to put that money. But I've definitely got to this point where I'm learning, and this is still a work in process of really just being content. Meaning that, not that like I'm scared, I want to bury the money and not try to grow it. I do want to grow it, but I'm not as interested if I can 10x, our investment over the next couple years. I'm not interested in putting in anything that's going to cause me a lot of stress, my wife a lot of stress, and also potentially put us in a situation where we may regret it. And this is where I have changed. And I'm willing to do this with my business. I'm willing to take risks there, but at least with this part of money, like this chunk of money, I was more interested in more modest growth, more modest gains.
Good choice.
So that's where we're at. Now, I will say some of that I have put into crypto. So I don't know. I might be, I might be contradicting myself a little bit, but I got the barbell strategy going, right? I got the barbell strategy. Okay, moving on. That was number 4, preserving wealth and growing wealth. Let's look at the last one, number 5. Millionaires don't dwell on their money mistakes. Ooh, I love this. So let me just read a little bit here. It said, most millionaires have made tons of money mistakes. Yep, that's me. Big and small, that negatively impacted their wealth, says financial advisor Hannah Watley. However, they know the mistakes. This is one of my favorite quotes. There's some variation of it. However, they know that the mistake does not define them or their ability to grow their wealth, and they move on. Millionaires understand that consistency does not require perfection. Now, I'm very blessed, fortunate that this was a characteristic of mine that I adopted fairly early on in my career. I don't know why. I was given, it's almost like a gift. And the gift was, if I were to try something that flopped, I would not kick my butt and sit in shame and guilt and just kick the crap out of myself. And most importantly, not live in fear to not try it again. And I have so many different examples of things that I have tried out that didn't work. It could have just ruined me. And once again, I don't know why. I don't know why I've been comfortable doing this. And some of them were just things that I tested out that cost a lot of time, but there's others that cost me a lot of money. And, one that I always go back to, it's like kind of like this funny, there's a few of these incidents that my wife and I can always look back on and kind of chuckle, like, oh yeah, remember that time? So one of them was a business investment. And this was right after I started my RIA, my registered investment advisory firm. I was really into the blog, YouTube, the podcast. I don't know if the podcast yet. Podcast was coming, but definitely the blog, the YouTube channel. And there was this business opportunity where I could offer basically selling self-directed 401k plans to sole proprietors, entrepreneurs. And it just seemed like a good fit, like a perfect fit, a perfect complement to what I was doing with the blog, what I was doing with my RIA, my wealth management practice. So it just seemed like a perfect fit. So it was like $8,000 that I bought for this training program to show me how to sell this thing. And when I started going through the training program, I realized, this is going to take a lot more time than I thought. And it was one of those, like, I had to make a pretty quick decision on if I wanted to buy this thing. And looking back, it's like, oh my gosh, it was 100% FOMO. It's like, oh my gosh, like I'm grateful. Like I know myself now, and I know that if I'm ever in this opportunity, like if I'm ever in the situation where somebody's presenting something that just sounds like, if I get that urge, like, yo, I have to buy this right now, because if I don't, I'm going to miss out on fill in the blank. And this was definitely one of those situations. So I dropped the $8,000, started going through the training program, and realized this is going to take a lot of time. There's also other things that I have to add that really weren't mentioned on that first call. I mean, I could point a little bit of some fingers at them as well, but I'll go ahead and eat most of it. It was going to cost even more to be able to sell this program to offer these solo 401ks. So after going through a few training programs and realizing this isn't a good fit, I just put the kibosh on it and did not get a refund. So I was out $8,000 on this business venture that got me nothing. I mean, you talk about a 100% sunk cost is what that was. Now, once again, I could have sat there and just beat the crap out of myself. Like, oh, you idiot. Like, you made another stupid mistake. This is what you always do. And now, like, you start hearing what family members and friends maybe have whispered to you, or maybe even told you directly that, you know, you're never another crazy idea. Here you go again, thinking that you found something. Like, when are you going to learn? When are you going to figure it out? I mean, there's no doubt that I heard some of those voices. I know that my wife wasn't pleased, because at that time, like $8,000 was a lot of money. I mean, it still is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
You know, to just give away, you know, for no purpose, no reason. I mean, it wasn't a charity. Like, they didn't take that money and give it away to other people and, you know, try to solve world hunger or anything. No, like, that was me giving away $8,000 for something that got me zero return. And it was hard, but I took that as a learning lesson. So what did I learn? I learned that don't fall into that FOMO trap, right? Don't invest into anything that there is this, that you feel is driven by this fear of missing out, because it could be an awesome thing, but does it actually match what you are currently working on? Does it actually match your goals, like what you are working towards? So I had to go back and really define, like, what are my goals? Like, what am I trying to achieve and accomplish? Because there is always going to be new opportunities. Like, there's always going to be things come up that just sound amazing. And I'm the one, and maybe you can relate to this, that falls victim into, like, I want to say yes to everything. And the truth is, like, when you say yes to anything, you say yes to anything, you might not realize this, but you're actually saying no to something else. You might be saying yes to something that's like okay, that's awesome, but potentially sabotaging you from saying yes to something that is absolutely amazing. But you can't, because you've already committed to this thing that sounded really, really good at the time. But as time unfolded and you start to learn more about it, you realize, oh, this isn't as good as I initially hoped. That's just one, right? That's just one of the money mistakes that I have made. There are more, quite a few more, but like, that's one that really comes to mind, but I don't dwell on them, right? Like, I've tried to figure out, what did I do wrong and what can I learn from it so that I don't do it again, so I don't repeat that same mistake. And I've heard other people refer to this, like, this is your tuition. Like, you can go to college, pay a college tuition to learn, from a textbook, or you can learn by going out and trying new things, testing out new things, and that's your tuition. And that's the mistakes, right? You learn from that. Learn from those mistakes. Don't dwell on them. But how can you take those mistakes, turn them into a lesson, and then improve it, grow upon it, and then next time it happens, it turns out to be a 100% success. And that's what all my, I don't say all my mistakes, but a good majority of them have helped me accomplish other things later on in life because I learned from them. I didn't dwell on them. All right, y'all. Well, I hope you enjoyed this article, or me reacting to this article on money habits for self-made millionaires. I know I enjoyed it. I'm curious, of some of the habits I've learned, are these habits that you have in your daily life, or your weekly life, or your quarterly life, depending on how often you look at these? Money habits are key, are essential. The key to most of them is just being consistent. If you are checking your money, make sure that you are checking it on a frequent basis. It doesn't have to be every day, but once a week, once a month, whatever fits your routine or whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever your desires are. They're all key. But let me know in the comments below, what are your money habits? The ones that have led to your success, and also some of the ones I mentioned. Are there any here that you need to add to your life so that you can have financial success? All right, y'all. Until next time, this is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Until then, peace.